organizers, I am back from Texas to the wonderful cold with my little friend Caballero, and I know you guys have been asking about what he's been up to. So now that I've been away for 2 weeks, we're going to get started again with trying to get him riding under saddle. And just to address some of your comments about, for the most part, you guys have been super supportive, and which has been great, but just to kind of address some of the comments about him, for starters, about why would I agree to put down a horse if I can't get them started under saddle. And well, the alternative was he was going to go to nobody else and he was going to get put down right away. So his option was me or nobody. So at least by coming to me, he has an option. And the owner, I don't think is evil or anything like that. There's a lot of things that can go on with horses if they're free horses and they're dangerous horses. Even let's say the owner decided to keep him and she passed away, well then what happens to that horse? Who does he go to? And there's no guarantee that he'll have a good life if a horse tends to have dangerous behaviors, right? So I think it's a bigger issue. I'm not saying that we should put down every horse that can't be ridden or anything like that. I'm just saying that it's a much bigger issue. And if you're just jumping on the bandwagon of saying she's such a bad person, she's such a bad owner, well, here's the thing. It costs $1,000 or so to put down a horse by a vet and then have them taken away humanely, versus it's a lot cheaper. In fact, you can make some money by sending your horse off to slaughter, and a lot of people do that. So the fact that she would rather spend the money and have her horse put down than send the horse off to slaughter. Not to say that those are the only two options, but I'm just saying a lot of times for people, if a horse isn't working out for them, the option is slaughter or euthanasia. And in this particular case, the owner bought this horse as a young horse before it was even broke to ride. She didn't know that it was going to have so many issues. She was hoping that it was going to be, you know, a riding horse. And so then that's tough. If you buy a young horse and it gets started the wrong way, I'm not saying there's a right or a wrong. I'm just saying that it's a really tough decision and there's a lot more issues at stake. Keeping horses is very, very expensive, and not everybody can keep a horse just for the sake of keeping them as a pet. And this particular owner was getting out of horses entirely. So she didn't replace him with somebody else or anything like that. She has just moved on and doesn't do horses anymore. And so in that scenario, you know, what do? Do you give him away for free to somebody who might not be honest about what's going to happen to him? So I hope that addresses that a little bit more. I think we're making really good progress though. So I have my best hopes that we're just going to keep progressing and doing really, really well. And then another comment just to address is the positive reinforcement piece of, you know, giving him cookies and, oh, like you're bumping him in the face and that's what you should expect if you're going to give your horse treats. And, well, let's slow down and stop here. Did anybody have to teach you your manners of please and thank you? I think so. That's not something that you're born knowing, is how to be polite and how to have manners. And so the same thing with horses. If we're going to use food motivation with horses, giving them a paycheck, then we can't expect them to be perfect and golden right off the bat and understand how to be polite. Of course they're going to be, you know, thinking, can I get more cookies? And that's okay. But in order to teach him his manners, I just have to block my space a little bit and kind of say, no, you can't come in here always asking for cookies all the time. You didn't do anything that earned a cookie, so you can't expect a cookie. Obviously, he's not scared of me. He's not head shy or anything like that. He knows the difference between me blocking my space versus me touching him, and he's totally okay with that. And every video that I post, he's getting better and better with his manners, because that's something that I have to teach him. But I think it's valuable enough to use with him because it gives him a reason to try, and it helps interrupt that feedback loop of that fear response. And so I want that fear response that he had of taking off with people and bucking them off. I want that to be interrupted with a, ooh, something yummy might happen for me if I can just try to listen to what she's asking her to do. And so already he's doing so much better. I'm not having to do as much, kind of keep him off of my space, and it doesn't take as much. And so with a little bit of consistency, those manners are going to get better and better, the same way that if you had a child, whether or not they say please or thank you is largely going to be because of the parent, if they're consistent or not about expecting those manners. So the same thing with my little fella here. So we just finished our first actual ride. We rode around at the walk, and so I'm going to show you a little bit of how that went and what we're up to. So here's a little look at Annalise doing some ponying with Caballero first, just to show you that we did do some different groundwork things with him and just trying to expose him to different things so that way we can kind of test out what any triggers might be and kind of set him up for success as best we can possible. So by doing some ponying, it's pretty simple, but it just lets him see a rider up above him without actually being on his back to start with, and making it a good experience. And then here's a little look at my mounting. So he did really well here. There's some other steps that I took before I actually just got on him. I work them from both sides, and I do some getting on and some getting off and just putting my leg over and things like that. But here's the mount that I use just to get on and stay on. And he's doing really well. And what I want to always see with my horses is that they're completely relaxed with one step before I go on to what I would consider the next step. So if he was still being tense about me getting on his back, then there's no point trying to actually ride him and do anything yet. So we want to make sure all of that's relaxed and we can see he's able to bend through his body, and all of that is really, really good stuff. So if you want to see the full video of all the steps that I took to kind of get him to where he's at, then I'm going to post this video in full in the Connection Club. And the Connection Club is if you go to harmonyhorsemanship.ca and then you go to become a student, you'll find the different online school there with the different courses, and one of them is the Connection Club, which is a monthly club where I post different videos every month, and your support in that group just helps me keep going with all of these training videos. But anyways, what I'm doing with Mr. Caballero right now is I am just kind of trying to build up his confidence and get him to understand what I call neutral. So that's where I'm doing things with my body, but I want him to understand that I don't actually want him to do anything with that. So we call that neutral because he's reading my body language that it's neutral and it doesn't mean anything. So I'm super relaxed in my seat bones, and you can see I'm just moving around and testing out different things. I want to make sure that he's totally comfortable with me moving my legs, moving my arms, tapping my helmet, all that kind of stuff. And then here's a little look towards the end of our session where we're actually going for a bit longer walks and kind of getting to move around a bit more. And that's my little puppy Bella barking in the background there. And so one of the keys here is that my reins are super loose, and long reins are important because I don't want him to feel very trapped. Now, my reins are ready to use them if I need to. And here, for example, when he's kind of zigging back and forth a little bit, I just kind of use my reins to keep him straight. And mostly what I'm using are my voice to ask him to go forward. I'm using very, very little leg. I use very little leg in the beginning just because I don't want to overwhelm the horse with too many things going on at once. So my body's kind of sitting there like a sack of potatoes. My hands are guiding politely, and I'm very careful to only use one rein at a time. So when I was guiding him to keep him straight, if I was using the left rein, then I made sure the right one was slack. So here you can see he's trying to drift back towards the gate, and so I use the rein to keep him straight. And then here he kind of wiggles a little bit, so you can see I'm using one rein to try to unstick him a little bit so I can ask him to go forward. And I'm just kind of massaging him back and forth, but I'm never pulling both reins at the same time because I don't want him to think that I want him to go backwards, and I don't want him to feel trapped like he's got nowhere to go. And so remember, the goal here for this session is to try to not overwhelm him or push him past a threshold, but I don't want to give up. I don't want to not follow through with what it is that I'm asking him to do. I just want to be very aware that this is something that he finds difficult, and I want to work his way up through that. So I'm not going to just bully him through it or kick him or anything like that, because that will probably provoke him to just buck me off like he's done to everybody else in the past. So instead, I'd rather go slow. I gave it a moment to stop and think about it, and then asked him again, and now he's walking up to the end and was able to get there. So I stop him and I give him a cookie. And a lot of the times when horses are saying no, sometimes they just need us to just pause and wait. He had a little startle there, and that was just from a bird that was flying by. You could probably see the shadows of the bird. And then here, asking him to walk forward, he does pretty nicely, which I'm pretty happy about. And you can see he gets a little
wiggly and he's not sure where to go. And so I just kind of try to keep him straight as best as possible. And he's a little bit distracted by the other horse there. He's not entirely sure where to go. He's thinking maybe he can hang out with that other horse that's there. And so the other horse has to kind of back up out of the way a little bit, but that's not the end of the world. One of the other things that he's learning about this session is that I'm not going to get mad at him, so there's no point having a super big reaction. We can get past, and you can see I reward him for going past the other horse there. I give him a little scratch there. So for his first ride, all I'm really trying to establish is that he can carry me on his back, I can move around, and that we can have some steering and some brakes a little bit. But I don't want to do too much with my legs just yet. I mostly want to be relatively neutral up there and just make sure it's a super relaxing, positive experience for him. And that he can leave kind of feeling like, yeah, like it's pretty good having Lindsay up on my back. Nothing bad happens. It's still rewarding. It's doable. It's not too hard. And I'm not seeing really any sort of horrible signs of tension. And here you can see he really lets go in his body. You can see his walk is a lot more rhythmic than what it was before. So I choose to stop him and offer him a reward there. Before, when he was walking, he was a little bit tighter in his body, a little tighter in his back, and wanted to stop more. So that's how we can kind of tell the difference. So I achieved my relaxation and my goal of being able to walk calmly with him. So I decided to end it there on a super positive note. So we're making lots of progress. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you next time.